Hi everyone. So the lighting today is not really cooperating with me, as is my hair not really cooperating with me, but hopefully you'll be able to not get distracted by all that and listen to what I'm saying. So this video is going to be about alternative foundation brushes. I'm sure a lot of you know about applying foundation with a sponge or with fingers. Those are the kind of more common methods. For example, for people who are not really that into makeup or that knowledgeable about makeup, you tend to use your hands or a sponge. I'm not going to mention sponges in this video because I personally don't like to work with sponges. I never ever use a sponge. I think they soak up too much product. The overall kind of effect they give is not that natural, and it's just not my kind of thing. Fingers, I do think with some products are the best tool, and they can really warm up the product and really help it sink into the skin. But the classic foundation brush, which looks like this is by QVS, and this is also something that a lot of you who are a little bit more into makeup might know. And I've just got a couple of different foundation brushes. Some are different variations of the classic, some are a little bit different, and I'm going to talk about the perfect foundations to work with the right type of brush and what you have to remember about formulas and that kind of thing when it comes to brushes. So the foundation that I'm going to talk about first, but it's not just this foundation in this particular foundation. It's foundations of a similar formula. So the very liquid foundations, for example, like NARS Sheer Glow, foundations like this are very runny, and they don't tend to work that well with a classic foundation brush. So something like this doesn't work very well with a very runny product because it kind of runs across the skin instead of really packing it into the skin. You can do it by kind of patting it in a kind of patting motion, but the effect that it gives can look a little bit blotchy and not that natural, and it's just not the best product to be using with a flat foundation brush. So if you've got a product that's quite runny, for example, and I've got two examples of kind of runnier products, so something like MAC Face and Body or NARS Sheer Glow that are very liquid. I'm aware these two are quite high-end ones. If you've got any kind of drugstore dupes for these, then pop them in the comments below, but these are just the kind of prime examples of a runnier texture that I can think of. MAC Face and Body and NARS Sheer Glow are very runny consistency, almost watery, especially MAC Face and Body. It's a very watery consistency. If I shake it in here, you can hear it. It's very watery. So with NARS Sheer Glow, I like to use a dew fibre brush. This is again by QVS, which is available in Superdrug, and this is a kind of dupe for the MAC 187, but a little bit bigger. And if you can see with these types of brushes, they're quite dense. This one isn't as dense as the 187, but they're quite dense, and you can kind of get a good shape with a grasp of the bristles, so you can kind of get into areas like around your nose and your chin and areas like that. But the way you're supposed to apply products with these types of brushes, instead of rubbing it in like that, you kind of tap it in all over, make sure it's all kind of really sunken in, and then start to blend it in really fast round circular motions, and that really helps to even out the product. And this and NARS Sheer Glow work like an absolute dream. They're perfect together. With MAC Face and Body, it does work well with a dew fibre brush, but I think with this type of product you need something that's a little bit denser, and I like to use this. Now this is a powder brush. It looks like I'm talking into a mic. It's by Blush Professionals, and it's a powder brush, but as you can see, it's quite flat and it's got a domed shape around the edge of the brush, and it's quite dense. So if you apply this, because it's got shorter bristles around this area and they grow longer, but it's very dense in the middle, when you're applying something like MAC Face and Body, it lays it down, so it stops it from slipping, but it also really blends it in really well, and this is a really great brush for something like this. I bought this in a kit, in a brush kit by Blush Professionals, but I think I can't remember what it's called, but the MAC Big Powder Brush is good for this, as is the Sigma, I think it's the powder brush, but brushes that are quite dense with a domed effect work really, really well with this kind of product because it's so liquidy. You really need to kind of buff it in. So those work well with that type of foundation. Now, if you've got a thicker consistency foundation, for example, so something like Revlon Colour Stay that you need to work very, very quickly with because it sets quite quick, a classic foundation brush is the best for this. And this one here is by Blush Professionals, and I like this one because it's very big. With classic foundation brushes, there's a few different variations of them. So we've got this one by QVS, which is more long, and it's got a lot more kind of shorter bristles growing into longer bristles, but it is quite dense and quite long. Then the Blush Professional brushes is a lot thicker, but it's not as long. So this is great to kind of pack things on because you really get that thick, heavier application. And then you get things like very small foundation brushes. This one's by Estee Lauder. And this is good for not just foundation. I like to apply liquid highlighter with this. But this is good to get around little areas like your nose and, you know, your Cupid's bow and inside kind of the crevices of your eyes and that kind of thing. If you like that, I'm going to show you a brush in a minute that I think works better for those types of areas, and I'll give you a little demonstration using all the different types of brushes. But for something quite heavy like Revlon Colour Stay, the best thing I think is to lay it down with a flat foundation brush. And you have to remember as well that just because you've started using one brush doesn't mean you can't then use another to blend, or then use your fingers to warm it up and help it sink into the skin. But using a brush like this is really, really good because it can kind of lay the product down and distribute it really evenly. So you're kind of blending it in quite fast, but you're also letting it sink into the skin and giving it a more natural look, and you can work quite fast with these types of brushes with blending. And once I've applied this with a brush, I kind of apply it to, let's say, till it's 90% perfect, and then I just use my hands and I don't rub because then you can kind of make the foundation crumble. I just tend to press into my skin like this in kind of round motions, press into the skin and really help the foundation sink into your skin. Then with just normal kind of formula, so kind of not very runny, not very solid, something like No. 7 Beautifully Matte or Estee Lauder Double Wear Light. Foundations like this, I think, work really well with fingers. These are the nicest way, I think, to apply them. This works amazingly well with fingers because it is quite liquidy, but it's got a lot of coverage, so you can control where you're putting it, and it works really, really great with fingers. It's funny looking at it now. All my foundations are way too dark for me at the moment because I'm so pale. But something like No. 7 Beautifully Matte works really well with fingers as well. It's a little bit of a thicker consistency, so you might want to lay it down with a flat foundation brush first, and then even it out with your fingers. But it works really, really nicely with fingers. Now I've got a different type of foundation brush that you might not have seen, and this is by Eco Tools. And this is a really interesting brush because it's a domed foundation brush. So if you can see right there, it's got a round tip. It's got a kind of tapered round tip. So this is absolutely amazing at getting into the hollows of your nose, around your lips, your chin, and just really blending it out. So I'm going to give you a little demonstration of the kind of perfect facial areas to use the different brushes. And I'm going to use the L'Oreal Infallible foundation in 150 Beige Eclat, just because it's a kind of easy to work with foundation, and it is one of the only foundations at the moment that are pale enough for my lovely ghost-like complexion. So I'm going to start by applying a little drop on my chin, a drop on each cheek, and a little bit down my nose. Just take the excess off on my chin. Now I'm going to use the QVS flat foundation brush on this cheek to show you. And what you want to do with this is just really kind of even it out. So spread it out and then start doing it in circular motions to reach the kind of harder areas of your cheek. And I know it's a little bit hard to tell in this lighting because I look very shiny. But spreading it out, and then you can just go back and do it in circular motions and pat it into place. And it works really, really nicely. Then if I use something like a stippling brush, this is how you would use it. But this isn't the best foundation to use a stippling brush with because it's a little bit thicker. Stippling brushes are better with liquid formulas. So around cheeks you can use brushes like that because you've got a bigger area to work with, if it makes sense. But on areas like nose and chins, you have to be a little bit more precise and make sure you really work it in. So I'm going to use the Eco Tools brush on my chin. And this really distributes the product in a really precise way and lets you blend it really amazingly. And you can also use this to kind of blend your concealer and foundation together. So if you've applied your foundation first, which I recommend you always do, and then add a little bit of concealer, you can use it to kind of bang the two colours together. If you've used something that's too light under your eyes and you want to just kind of erase the mark, then a foundation brush shaped like this would be great for that. So you can just really get into the crevices of all the areas. I'm going to just apply a little bit more foundation onto this brush just to demonstrate what great coverage you get. Perfect precision with hard to reach areas. And also great concealing properties because it's denser. So that is it. I'm not going to put foundation on my forehead because I never do, because I tend to find that it just breaks me out on my forehead, so I never put foundation on my forehead. But I'm just going to give you a quick recap. So with very liquid formulas like MAC Face and Body or NARS Sheer Glow, go for a kind of fluffy but yet dense brush, something like a stippling brush or a large powder brush, or you could use a kabuki brush as well to really kind of get it into the skin and really help blend it. With a really dense, hard to work with product, a flat foundation brush and hands are the best option because you can lay the product down and then warm it up with your hands. Then if you're going for something that's a little bit more medium formula, if you know what I mean, something like Estee Lauder Double Wear Light or number 7 Beautifully Matte, then a combination of hands and a flat foundation brush again works really well, but it does really depend on your skin type and the shape of your face sometimes as well, but I like using those types of products for that kind of job. For the best precision around hard to reach areas like nose, chin, eyes, a dome shape foundation brush is the best option for this because you can really get into every little nook and cranny and really help blend, and it also has great concealing properties. So make sure you kind of adapt your brush to your formula, and for different areas of your face, different things. Cheeks, like I said, it's a bigger surface area so you don't need as much precision, but with harder to reach areas like noses and chins, then it is much more important to make sure you're very precise and you've blended it and you've got no yucky product build up in like the little hollow in between your lip and chin, or in between your cheek and nose and above your cupid's bow and in your inner corners of your eyes. And it's great for areas as well, like if you're trying to blend it into the hairline. So like that. I look really orange, but I'm not. It's just the lighting. But yeah, if you've got any questions or anything like that, pop them in the comments below and let me know, and I'll be sure to get back to you, and hope you'll have a great day. Goodbye.